public servant. What helped draw you to choose to actually serve as a commissioner, to run for the very first time? What helped you make that decision?
Well, as being a realtor, I was a member of the Carteret County Association of Realtors, and they have moved into a lot of political advocacy as far as trying to help homeowners with property rights. And so we were doing some lobbying with the North Carolina Association of Realtors in Raleigh, and I just learned how important it was for people who give to their community and give to the state and serve in these positions to help guide where you go to the future.
Working in a particular area of business, you see the various regulations that you have to deal with on a regular basis. You have to have zoning approvals, and you have to have other sorts of approvals and so forth. Has the board worked together to kind of sort of streamline the process so that when builders or construction projects come in to the area, they're able to kind of move through the approval process in a quicker manner?
The county has worked diligently to make that. So my experience in the business world coming to the government, I have tried to make sure that we're a little bit more responsive. The theme that I'm always, I don't know if I want to use preaching, but it may be preaching, is that the residents here are the taxpayers. Whether you own property or you rent, you're still paying property taxes, because if you're paying rent to a landlord, he's using your money to pay the property taxes. So everybody is our customer, and we need to be responsible to the citizens and try to be the most efficient and effective that we can be. So we have worked hard, and I think the county's doing a pretty good job. I would like to see across the state more counties and more cities be a little bit more responsive to the citizens' needs.
Keeping a balanced budget. I know that's something that the commission's always looking at. As we think about the balance of 18 and on in 19, what are some ongoing projects that residents can look forward to or maybe see come to completion during that time?
This year, we're looking forward to continuing waterways projects. In Carteret County, we have a lot of roadways, but then the state takes care of the roads throughout the state. But the county, we don't really have any responsibility for road maintenance or putting in new roads. But we do have responsibility for the waterways, and the waterways are very important. We have the Intercoastal Waterway that runs from South Florida up to Cape May, New Jersey, and it's an important commerce route with people in boats, that recreation, also commercial fishermen, commerce, and we have a port here in Morehead City. So it's really, really important to work those waterways, and we're going to spend probably about close to $500,000 this year as far as dredging projects.
Recent storms, hurricanes that have come through, how's that affected our waterways? And hopefully, 18 will finish out as a quieter season then.
Well, praise the Lord, we haven't had any bad hurricanes here in northeastern North Carolina. While we have had some effects from some, Puerto Rico took it really bad last fall, and they're still recovering with infrastructure needs. But we've done okay. Year to year, the shoals and the channels can shift just for a regular northeaster or any type of weather event. So it's a little bit challenging each year to get out there and make sure, see what's kind of changed. Coast Guard does a good job of moving the channel markers and buoys to make sure that the boaters are safe out there when they're out there using it, whether it be recreationally or commercially.
Since you work with the state on a regular basis, making sure that they're appropriating money for Carteret County is important. And so how do you make sure you're staying in front of officials to say, as you're making those decisions, we want to make sure that you're allocating our portion back home here in Carteret County then?
Well, we'd like to do a better job there. We do really well with our representative, Pat McElrath, who represents all of Carteret County and a portion of Jones County. She does an extremely good job of trying to help us. But we try to get that word out to the other 120 representatives and the other 49 senators. Norm Sanderson is our senator here that serves Craven County and Carteret County. They understand it, and they try to help us as much as possible. But budgets are tight. We went through a bad economy several years ago, and the state finally is, I think, reversed the process of some of the deficits they're having and trying to get things. We don't quite get the money that we feel that we should. The state ranks counties across the state they have it in a tier system. There's what's called a tier 1, which are your most extreme counties that need the most help, that may have some poverty issues. You have a tier 2 county that's kind of somewhere in the middle. They could be a little bit above poverty to what they need to call tier 3 rich. And we actually are considered a tier 3 county, and that's probably not fair and not appropriate. 42% of our kids in our school system here are probably on free or reduced lunch. But because we operate things I'd say, more like a business here in this county. We maintain a low tax rate. We actually maintain a decent amount of reserves and fund balance. And we have, thank you to the island over on Bogue Banks, Pinal Shores, all the residents over there, for the values of the homes they have, those high home values help us to have a low tax rate for the other citizens in the county. So we actually have the lowest tax rate in the state. We are number one by 10%. So the tax rate we're at in the low 30s, we're able to operate effectively, not always give everybody everything that they want, but we're good stewards of the citizens' money.
Low tax rates are always an incentive, whether you want to buy a second home or you're ready to relocate. Coming to Carteret County certainly is something to consider and to look at. You mentioned sort of what many people might consider the rainy day funds. You've got reserve funds in case something were to happen. How are we doing as far as our bond rating right now?
We're near the top. So we're really good in that area. When we try, most of our bond debt that we currently have right now is associated with the school system. So not only are we a county that has the lowest tax rate in the state, we also rank in the top in school systems. So we fund the schools at a rate that's, obviously everybody always wants more. I guess if we had the school board in here today, they could talk about some needs and some wants. And we try to address those the best we can, but we understand education is important, that children are our future. And without that, you reap what you sow. And so we try to plant a good foundation and good values. And, or like I say, we have one of the top school systems. I think all three of our high schools in the past several years have ranked in the top 10 across the state. And our SAT and ACT scores are up near the top too.
I want to continue down that path. But in case you're just joining us, Mark Mansfield, Carteret County Commission Chairman, is our guest on Closer Look on 92.7 Positive Encouraging KLOVE. I'm Frank Hammond. Commissioner Mansfield, as far as hiring teachers and maintaining them here and continuing their careers, are we doing okay as we continue to grow and have space in school?
I think with anything, whether it be business or government, you're always striving to do better. Are there ways to be more efficient? Are there ways to be more effective? Can we do something differently? I think you always have to have self-assessments. I would give us a really good grade as far as we probably locally fund 100 plus positions. It's probably close to 130, whether it be teachers, teachers assistants, whether it be people staff that work at the school, whether it could be an assistant principal's position, or it could be a partial of the salary for a principal. The state funds a majority of the teaching positions, and they set the pay rate. So we fund those, but it goes along with the state system and the state retirement, and we make our contributions locally towards those.
Keeping our children safe, school resource officers, SROs, whose budget does that come out of?
That's the $50 million question across the state and the nation, and in counties and municipalities. There really isn't anything set up specifically one way or the other for those. The school board's budget does fund just about all of the positions that we have in the schools right now. Now, locally, we give the school system, I think this past year was almost $23 million in operating, and it was close to another $2 million in capital. So they use that money to help pay for those positions. But we have school resource officers in all three of our high schools. We have a school resource officer that the county just provided additional funding for, that is a position. This position, he's based out of this one particular school. He's not there 100% of the time, but his job is to be a liaison with the other municipality police officers and the county to monitor online chatter, social media, anything that you could recognize where there could be an event, and trying to be proactive versus reactive. I don't think you can build a moat or a fence around every school and keep everybody out. So it's a fine line and fine balancing act. We would like to get to a point that we had a resource officer in every school, but we got to make sure that we can pay for everything. We have probably low 8,000 students, 8,200, 8,300 students, and we have almost 70,000 residents, because we're a big recreation resort and retirement community. So we have to be responsive to all the taxpayers' needs, not just the children.
Volunteers are a huge part of what makes up any community, whether it's a town, a city, a county, or a state. There are many volunteer hours that are put in from various residents here across the county. Can you think of some of those and ways residents are giving back, or other ways, for instance, that maybe residents who maybe they'd like to help out with our county commissioners, maybe they'd like to be on an advisory board? What are ways they can do that?
There are a lot of ways that you can help and volunteer, and we're thankful for all the residents out there listening for all that you do, because we have a lot of people that contribute and give back to our area, the county and the cities and the townships where they live. But you can, the Salvation Army, We have a big seafood festival event here in October. That's one of the largest seafood festival in North Carolina, and they have there. It's all run by a volunteer organization over in Beaufort. They have a pirate invasion that they have a board that does all of those type things. We have one of the 3 North Carolina State aquariums here in Pinal Shores, and they actually have a board where they have the nonprofit that helps raise money, the Friends of the Aquarium Society. So there are a lot of ways that you can do it civically and in a community base, but there's also ways you can do it through the county as far as serving on whether it be the TDA board or the hospital board or the ABC board or the Parks and Recreation board, the library board. We have a lot of vacancies that are currently open for some of the non-glamorous boards. The Hollywood version ones, we always have plenty of people wanting to volunteer for those, but it's always, sometimes if you start in one board, you gain the experience and you work your way up.
Our community of faith comes together ecumenically to meet various needs. What are some of those?
We have lots of churches that contribute and help. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out, so I won't start naming off churches. I mean, I will name 2 of the bigger organizations that do a lot. You have Hope Mission here that helps a lot with the homeless and people that are struggling. They've got their soup kitchen. You've got the Salvation Army, which have had recently trying to get a campaign drive to build a new center there. And they're about $400,000 from reaching the goal to get that done. But a lot of these things these are Christian-based organizations that they're faith-based, and not that we want to exclude anybody, but we think that the Lord should provide and help, and we try to do our part in helping with those.
Neat to see the churches coming together, and there's many ways you can volunteer once again and help out. Being a commissioner is certainly different than if you just come to a meeting periodically and hear various issues that are being brought before the commission members. What was it like for you, or what is it like for you now as far as having to make those decisions and taking into consideration all areas and all facets of each decision? What's that like for you?
Well, I started out kind of like how we talked a minute ago about with those boards. I started out with the Realtor Association and the MLS, which is a multiple listing service for realtors, and they're just a nonprofit that helps with running with all we do. Realtors, we work together as an association, just like how churches do. And I started out there, and then I ended up running for the Board of Education. So I actually served on the Board of Education for 2.5 years before I decided to run for county commissioner. But when I ran for county commissioner, things in the area down here that affect Pinal Shores a lot. It affects Atlantic Beach, Indian Beach, Salter Path, Emerald Isle, all the people that live on boat banks, and the mainland people in Carteret County too, are wind insurance and the cost and the rising cost, and to fight, because right now Eastern North Carolina, in my opinion, is subsidizing the insurance in the western part of the state, and they use that catastrophic event, the hurricane, to blame it on, because passing insurance increases isn't popular. So they keep a lot of the voters in the western part of the state happy. We don't have enough votes down here to kind of vote some of those people out sometimes. So it gets tricky, but I mean, it's you're always trying to figure out how you can help and what's the best thing. You can't make everybody happy. That was the one thing my wife really got on me for when I decided I was going to serve. She said, you're going to make half the people mad and half the people happy. And I said, yeah, but somebody's got to do it, and it involves giving your time, and there's got to be a commitment. Growing up here, like you talked about earlier in the interview, my family living here for several generations. I love Carteret County and call it home. We refer to it in our marketing from the Travel and Tourism Authority as the Crystal Coast, and the beaches, the waves, the sand. It's a great place to do a lot of things here, whether it be marlin fishing or scuba diving or parasailing, kayaking, swimming. We have the most visited state park down at Fort Macon at the other end of the island throughout the state. So I'm proud to serve here, and that's why I put my name in the hat, because I think that there's always that balance between moving towards the future but being mindful and respecting the past.
In case you're just joining us, Mark Mansfield, Carteret County Commission Chairman, is our guest on Closer Look on 92.7 Positive Encouraging KLOVE. I'm Frank Hammond. Chairman Mansfield, when do the commissioners meet?
We meet the third Monday of every month, unless we need to meet. Then obviously we call special meetings. Usually that meeting starts at 6 o'clock, and right here it's over at the Beaufort Courthouse, and we meet in the commissioner's room. And then during budget season, we meet twice a month, and it's usually the first Monday and the third Monday then. So through budget season, generally sometime May through the end of June, sometimes in April we can, and then we'll have, when I was first elected, we called them retreats. And over in Pinal Shores, sometimes we meet at the Trinity Center, or we meet at different locations over in Red City at the Civic Center. But we would have meetings where we brainstorm and think about the upcoming things for the future, what needs we need to address and what the focus will be. Talk about how we can do things better with different departments and issues that may be being pushed down from the federal government or the state government and how we need to address those. I kind of tried to, since I've become chairman, to call them workshops because there's not anything a retreat about it. It's an all-day work